Can you believe it? It is sprinkling here in the pit lane. We've had a brilliant day weather-wise so far, but you can maybe just tell from our cameraman here, just light sprinkles happening. Whether it sets in and whether it's going to impact this Sports Sedan race, we'll have to see, but little shower maybe breezing through.
Thanks very much, Greg. Last thing that we wanted to hear up here, I've been joined by Gary O'Brien from Auto Action and has been to every single round of the Shannons Nationals since it began. Gaz, the big bangers are on track, the gods of thunder we like to call them, and it looks like it might start raining.
Yeah, thanks Daz, thanks everyone, good afternoon. Race 2 of round 1 of the Sedan Sports Sedan series, and I was hoping that Jack might go down and set a new outright lap record. He held it yesterday, but unfortunately one of those GT beasts came along and gazumped him on that one. So if it persists in raining like this, obviously they won't get near the times they were doing yesterday, but what a race we have in front of you. Jack Perkins on pole, Stephen Tomasi alongside, then Tony Ricciardello. Started 13th in race 1, got up to 3rd. Shane Woodman, quite achiever I'd say this weekend in that BMW with its Chev engine. Jake Camilleri, of course, in the Mark II V8, and Shane Bradford, who came from the back of the field up to 6th position. Now we've had dramas with Thomas Randall, of course, didn't get through the formation lap, had no spark. They were busy chasing that problem the last time I seen him, which was late yesterday. No one was here at at dawn this morning, which is a good sign because that means they've either fixed it or packed it away. But let's hopefully they have found it. There's the grid on the big screen if you happen to be seeing one or in one of the garages. As we said, Perkins on pole in the Audi Chev powered cars that dominate the front of the grid with Steve Tomasi, Tony Ricciardello, Shane Woodman. And then, of course, we've got a Ford engine car in position 5, the Mark II V8. Shane Bradford in the Trans Am car. Steve Lacey was well down the order in the first race. Ron Moller, all the way from Western Australia, in his Trans Am Chev Camaro. Phil Crompton in another Trans Am car, but this one built in Australia. One of the few Trans Am cars that didn't come out of America at some stage. And out of 10, John Goodacre in one of the earlier Mark V8s.
Car number 1, Birrell Chetton, last year's champion, struggling here at the bend for the first time. Jason Fusk out of 12, Colin Smith, the first of the Monaros, out of 13. Adam Hargroves to Keith Kasuki in the Mark cars there. Michael Robinson improving from yesterday, didn't get any practice or qualifying, up to 16th. The Victorian finished second in the championship there last year. Vin Stenter, Jeff Taunton, Bruce Henley, who won the big champion, and Thomas Randall in the big black Sky Sand Saab. Here we go, moments away from action. Watch that big black Saab down the back of this field.
And that
away we go.
On the outside of him is not lacking anything in a straight line. We've seen that in the past. And actually he's got his nose in front as they head down to turn 1 for the first time, and they go side by side through that corner as well.
Just watching Thomas Randall, he's made up 10 spots into turn 1 that time around. There goes Shane Bradford into the boonies off there, and there goes one of these, that Kasuki heading off there, comes back on in front of the BMW there, one of the local improved production cars there as well. And we've also got the little Escort rejoining back onto the field as well, so good to see that. There's Woodman, and he's already got Lacey through on him, so there's a move there. Tomasi Ricciardello in the number 5. It's really strange to see number 5 on the side of that car after 10 national championship wins. Have a look at Jake Camilleri. He's up into P3, already started out of 6, and there is Thomas Randall. He's dispensed with 3/4 of the field already.
He's up to position 9, so he's got Goodacre in front of him and Bust behind him. They're 2 of the original Mark V8 cars that he's already split on his way towards the front of the field. There's 10 times. We call him old 10 times because he's won 10 Sports Sedan titles. When they were championships or when they were series, it doesn't really matter. It's winning the title that matters the most.
And you can check it out in the Guinness Book of Records and the FIA Guinness Book of Records, because both of them is a world record for winning championships.
Actually, he got that at win number 9, so it hasn't been updated yet.
Yeah. Here comes Thomas Randall. That is Birrell Chetton, car number 1, last year's champion, right in front of him now. So he's made his way well and truly inside the 10.
Steve Lacey on the back of Jake Camilleri as we're watching him go around that part of the circuit, and Jake said that he doesn't have the power of the Chevs in a straight line, but his car's a very good handler, and we'll get an idea as they come down the straight whether he can hold out that Chev Camaro for the full 1 kilometre of our main straight.
Be interesting enough to see if he can hold out that Saab at the moment, because he's starting to track down Phil Crompton and getting onto the back of the Victorian champion from a couple of years ago, Shane Woodman. Good to see the Landau Signs Riverside Racing BMW out there on track. Of course, Riverside have had the Michael Robinson Monaro all over Christmas, doing a major rebuild on that as well.
That went into yesterday's qualifying period, so that's why he didn't go out and qualify, hence starting at the back of the grid. Steve Lacey, one of the only cars up towards the pointy end of the field that doesn't have power steering. Have a look inside that car, it's got a wheel, it looks like it came off a tractor. That's so he can get his shoulders in it and make a turn. He said his arms were aching when he had the little tiny wheel in it. So it's a bit old school in that respect.
Gee, lucky he wasn't doing the GT course. Thomas Randall slowing. Thomas Randall is slowing. So the charge of the big black Sky Sand Saab halted just for the moment. And there is Phil Crompton off in the dirt as well. So a couple of the front runners, Crompton out of 6th place, Randall out of 7th. And there is Crompton in the number 12, parked up.
Ford Mustang, of course. Had a pretty good run with it of recent times, but not at the moment. More challenges going on there. There's Bust and Camilleri, old generation Mark car and a newer one, racing each other at the moment. A bigger engine in the newer car for about 5.4, 5.6 litre engine, and a 5 litre Coyote engine in the other car. More action going on. Another one of the Mark cars, John Goodacre in the Mazda with his green that resembles something like one of the beer cans you might see that he's got quite a passion for.
So this is fighting out for 7th, 8th and 9th on the road. There's Chetan up the road in car number 1. And he's made up a lot of places.
You would think that Keith Kasuki comes down from New Guinea each race meeting to race that car. Had a stint in Touring Car Masters.
Bradford now pushing on. He's regained after that turn 1 incident where he went off into the dirt.
And interesting battle between Busk and Goodacre, because they're pitted right next to each other. So if it comes to blows there, it'll be interesting to see what happens in the pits afterwards.
Just caught in the background, Miles Bond in that magnificent X-Mix Monterosso Escort. Ran with a 4-cylinder, then ran with a 6 litre Chev in it as well.
Yeah, he had to get past some of those improved production cars, commonly, formerly known as club cars, which of course are running this weekend on slicks and what have you, just to get a few miles around this great facility.
Well, they're running the improved production nationals here later on in the year as well, so they'll be getting some very valuable miles.
You've been known to do a couple of things in club cars, haven't you, Bert?
Yeah, done that.
Des?
Yeah, in the 90s, not that long ago, really. Jack Perkins leading this race, doing a ripping job. This pack here that we're looking at is Jeff Taunton, Viral Chetan, Keith Kasuki on screen, then it's John Goodacre. Here's our race leader.
Not much of
Jack
a gap
Perkins.
between him and Tomasi, very close, 1.15 seconds the gap. And Jack actually ran away and hid in the first race, but hasn't had that luxury in this one, and the times are down a bit, so that rain that Rusty talked about must be affecting their performance.
Yeah, it certainly is.
Actually, I think they've got Tomasi is heading Perkins, so there's been a mismatch on the timing. There's obviously a problem with Jack's transponder.
Yeah, there's an issue there, but Jack's
but his times are well down.
Gone out on the painted ripple strip there, so it's definitely playing into this. There's still a bit of dust in the air, so maybe if it does, we do get a bit of precipitation, it will settle that down.
Well, Tomasi's got the fastest lap of the race, a 1:51.58, and Jack only did a 1:50 point something yesterday, so they aren't slow. It's just that Stephen has really picked up in the Domain's Calibra Chev, and it'll be interesting when they get to the main straight, because we know the number 9 car has a lot of straight line speed. We've seen that in the past in this championship, this series.
Can I do a bit of fanboy work here, Gaz? Come on, number 5, get up there. Get up there, Tony, get with them.
He's been doing a lot of work on that Alpha Chev.
Oh, the Muscat's gone to the dirt.
No,
Regathers it.
No, he hasn't. Just an optical illusion we got from that one.
It certainly was. Tony Riccadello off the back of that shot. Jack Perkins now not hot in the sectors at all. Last lap around they both were. They're both eased out of it now, both just sitting into a lap that's not going to be as quick as what their personal bests are.
Well, Jack's had a pretty a rough time here all weekend. The only trouble-free session they had was actually in the race yesterday where they won. So to get this together, and at the moment in P4 we're looking at there's Beryl Chetton.
Bradford on Kasuki here, so the Hot Wheels, the Aston Air car, working on the back of Keith Kasuki.
He went off at turn 1 on the opening lap and is already back up to 8 spots, so it's been a great run from what was the Hot Wheels Trans Am Chef Camaro in Trans Am racing in the US many moons ago, or that's what it replicates anyway.
Aston Air now, this is back at our race leaders.
Very close there.
This is Marcy, the car that we know, Gaz, because we watched it for an entire weekend at Sydney Motorsport Park, haul in this car when Darren Hossack was driving it, and Tony Ricciardello in a straight line. So you'd expect that down the chute, down the main straight here, the 1 kilometre long main straight, that it will be something pretty special, and Jack Perkins will be well aware of that. Absolutely aware of that.
We're on the 5th lap. There should be 5 to go at the end of this one if it goes full distance, and that gap at the moment looks like it's just eked out a little bit. Was just over a second now. I'd suggest it's possibly in the margin of about 1.5 seconds. Tony Ricciardello still 3rd with quite a good margin on Jake Camilleri in 4th, Steve Lacey 5th, Shane Woodman, and unfortunately Bradford off the road again, and just does a nice little pirouette to get himself back and running again. So he's made a great climb back for the field, but he said he's just undone some of that great work.
It is good to see the number 68 back out in the Sky Sands National Series. We missed him over the last couple of years, and here we go, looking at the back of, is that Jason Busk? No, that's Taunton. And there's Bill Chetton, the number 1 car as well. So we're talking down the field a little bit.
I think what happened there, he checked up a little bit too quick because of the cars in front of him, and obviously
got a bit of a shock once he saw that the Camaro was there as well. Colin Smith just streaming through there in the first of the Monaros. At the moment, Michael Robinson holding down 14th spot. So a little bit of a redevelopment with that car for Michael Robinson. His third last year in the national title, 2nd in Victoria. And number 4 now, Jack Perkins is lighting up the timing screens.
Well, actually, Tony Ricciardello just did the fastest new lap record around here, on 50.54. Fastest lap for the race, I should say. And he's not far off the back of these guys. Doing a pretty good job in 3rd. Had to climb through quite a few cars to get up there after a pretty ordinary qualifying session. Got balked by a slower car, and when it was wet on Saturday morning, it had to abort and basically run off the road, and they spent a fair bit of time cleaning that car out after the session, and didn't get a real time that could have put them further up the grid.
Car 1 and 91 have a real battle here. They've swapped positions a couple of times. That Bill Chetton, number 1, with Keith Kasuki. He's gone through on Keith now, and he's out after Jeff Taunton. So car 1 fighting it out to the minor places in the top 10 at the moment. He was rarely outside of the top 3 last year.
Yep, Johnny Goodacre there, former saloon car racer, went to the GT3 Cup Challenge, which we just seen before this race, and then did a stint in the Toyota 86 series before purchasing this car from Ryan McLeod to do some GT and sports sedan races, and is settled with the Mark V8 at the moment.
Jack Perkins now setting the fastest lap of the race. So he gets through at lap 6 with that. 150.21. The front 3 cars now operating in the 150 lap times.
Getting a replay of something that's happening there.
So here is Miles Bond, John Goodacre just in front.
That's a famous car, that Escort. It did have a turbocharged engine in it, then went to a Chev, and now it's back to a turbocharged engine.
Yeah, certainly was a weapon of choice back racing against the likes of Bob Jolly and Kerry Bailey and Des Wall. with Mick Monterosso, South Australian racer at the wheel.
Looks like Bruce Henley off the road there in the Mazda. Should be just about going into sight then, but still lots of action going on, lots of big field of sports sedans. They took a little bit of a hiatus from national race meetings last year and conducted their championship on state level calendars, and then they've come back big and strong this year. They've got another round with the Shannons Nationals at Queensland Raceway in July. They're also at the Muscle Car Masters plus Isle of Magic down at Phillip Island late in November.
It'll be a ripper to see these guys battling it out for the 50k plate, arguably one of the those one-off type plates that's hotly contested outside of the national title, the Sky Sands National Series for 2018. So it's going to be a big weekend at the end of November at Phillip Island. I tell you what, you've got to eat your meat and your veggies before you get to dessert. We've got to get this race meeting done. There's a couple of Victorians going for it there and a 13B powered RX-7. We've got a new race leader. Jack Perkins relinquishes the lead, and here comes T. Ricciardello.
Steve Tomasi leads away, Perkins second, Ricciardello in third, and they're all circulating in the 150
Jack Perkins has got issues.
bracket.
Absolutely slowing now. Jack Perkins will take no further part in race 2. Let's hope they can get it back out there for the final race that starts at 4:30 today. And Jack looking to get out of this magnificent car. The Fitzner Performance Gearboxes signage emblazoned all over the front of it. Here's the battle we were looking at before. Vince Stenter in the Skyline there, the GTR. And let's have a look at what transpired here. There we go. Jack Perkins ran wide. I wonder if that was the first part of the issue that caused him to go wide. He's looking down. He's looking down at his feet, actually. So I wonder what was going on there. There we see Tomasi stream on through. In fact, it was probably the biggest lead that Jack had all race long. And for Tomasi to come through at that point, here's our race leader now. And here is P2 by 1.4 seconds. And Tony Ricciardello has just turned it up, hasn't he?
Yeah, and this will be a great comeback for Tony Ricciardello after a year out of the sport. A couple of surgeries as well.
Oh, we've got another fire on board the Audi. They've let the extinguisher go there.
Yeah, Jack out of the car, and they're just having a quick look in it. This was a problem that got him at Sydney Motorsport Park last year when he could have sewn up the series. And unfortunately had a fire there as well, so not good. Steve Tomasi's lead, 1.5 seconds.
Goes through on John Perkins there, Victorian as well.
And heads out now at the end of this. Is the end of lap 8. There's 2 to go. And on that lap, we got a 51.58 from Tomasi and a 51.34 from Ricciardello. So about half a second faster was the Alpha over the Calibra. And this is going to go on for now. We've got almost 2 laps of action. So when he gets a tail out of turn 3, almost brought it undone. I think he knows, he can sense that he can get close to Tomasi, he can get by.
You know, it's good for supercars when CL gets up for a win. You know, it's good for sports announcement. Tony Ricciardello pushes hard. Yeah, but I tell you what, Steve Tomasi, if he can bring this victory home, this is fantastic. He has been the bridesmaid to Hossack and Ricciardello and Perkins and Ricciardello for numerous years now, and to win a race here at the first time out at the Bend Motorsport Park.
And to beat the likes of Tony Ricciardello as well. That'll be something. He and his dad run 2 cars generally, but they're just running the one this weekend, and they both painted the same. And I said to him last year, I said, why don't you just change them so we can tell them apart? And he said, don't have to, because mine's always in front. Accident there for Phil Andreas in the improved production BMW. So he's rearranged the front fender and guard on that, guard and bumper on that car.
About 30% of this lap left for these two to contend. Deep under brakes.
Actually, I think they've told us this is the last lap, so this may be it. This is not much of a chance. 1.1 second the gap now.
Just looking at the time screen, some improvers there. Robbo and Hargraves. There it is. Checkered flag. Steve Tomasi takes the win over Tony Ricciardello. A couple of protagonists from a couple of years ago come to the line. Unfortunately, Jack Perkins not making it there. And really, unfortunately, that Thomas Randall couldn't play any further part in it. Just watching Michael Robinson's jumped to 11th in this last lap and was setting fastest sectors. So the development heading in the right direction if the end of this race in that car is anything to go by. Here comes Michael Nguyen, charging across the line there. He got home, Michael getting home in 17th there.
Yeah, there goes Jake Camilleri through ahead of him. Jake Camilleri will finish in 3rd position in this race. Great battle for 4th coming down the line. Shane Woodman and Stephen Lacey going through.
Michael Robinson not getting to the line, so he's had an off there. He's running very, very well. There's a spin coming to the line there as well. Miles Bond and Shane Bradford.
That's his 3rd spin for the race, and he was in 7th.
Like a nightclub DJ, isn't he, out there spinning him around?
Let's hope he can get over. He might still get a good result out of this. No, John Goodacre goes across the line in front of him, as does Miles Bond, Colin Smith.
What a run there for Miles Bond. He came from down the right down the field. Driving up, Colin Smith, I think he's gone up a couple of spots there as well. So a welcome return for the Sky Sands National Sports Sedans here at the Bend Motorsport Park for round 1 of the Shannons Nationals. Always a crowd favourite, the Big Bangers.
They are, and it's a great result for Steve Tomasi. I know they've worked long and hard to finally put a win together, and they've got it. Tony Ricciardello, what a great return to the sport to get home in 2nd spot, and Jake Camilleri getting into, now that, folks, isn't part of the actual race.
So Steve Tomasi gets the win in the Holden Calibra. Tony Ricciardello. Jake Camilleri.
Yeah, Jake Camilleri 3rd. Shane Woodman in 4th. Steve Lacey 5th. Keith Kasuki in the 2nd of the mark. V8's in 6th. Miles Bond 7th. Colin Smith. Jeff Tanton and Jason Busk go round out our top 10. 2 of the mark cars in the top 10. Adam Hargraves 11. Peril Shenton the number 1 plate holder from last year. Michael Robinson, John Goodacre, Shane Bradford with 3 spins, still gets across the line in 15th position. John Perkins, yes, that's not Jack Perkins, that is John Perkins. Michael McGibb, Vince Stenner, Graham Gilliland, well back in the Mazda. Jack Perkins, of course, a non-finisher as this goes out. Of course, joining him on the sidelines, Phil Andreas, Bruce Henley, Thomas Randall, Phil Crompton and Ron Moller.
Of course, the last 3